Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mayanthi. I'm a qualified counsellor and I share tips on how I became a counsellor and what you might want to know if you're looking to become a counsellor too. So just before we get into the video, I would love it if you can click the subscribe button, and if you like this video, towards the end you can hit that thumbs up button as well, because that just gives me some motivation to keep making these videos if you're enjoying the content. And if you do have any questions, just leave them down below and I will try and answer them in one of my future videos as well. So in this video, I wanted to share a bit about the day in the life of a counsellor. Sorry, you can probably hear birds in the background, but I've gotten this question a few times and I have made some little videos about this on my TikTok, so you can go have a look at that as well if you're interested. But I just thought I'd share a bit of a longer video and a bit more of some information around that. So just to give you some background, I am a qualified counsellor. I studied the Bachelor of Psychological Science and then I went on to study the Master of Counselling and Psychotherapy, both at Adelaide Uni. And after finishing that degree, I was a qualified counsellor and able to register with PACFA, which is the Psychotherapy and Counselling Federation of Australia, which made me a registered counsellor. I then worked in a few different types of roles. So to give you some more background, when you're a counsellor, you don't necessarily need to work as a counsellor directly. So you might work in other types of roles like case management, social work. Currently, I'm not working as a counsellor directly. I'm working in the tertiary education space at a university, working with students with disabilities. So there are lots of kind of different areas and roles that you can do, but I think specifically in this video I'll share what I did when I was working as a counsellor. So I've done a couple of roles in organisations where I was working as a direct counsellor. So I had one-on-one sessions with clients, and I also started my own kind of on a small scale counselling practice, where I had my private clients and I'd go see them in their homes or meet with them out in the community and run counselling sessions with them. So I'll take you up to my workspace here at home and I will continue on with telling you some more information. So just before I go upstairs and talk to you a little bit more, I'm just going to make myself a chai. So I love this chai powder from Arcadia. And I've got some oat milk, so we'll just make that now and then we'll go back up. So I've just come up to our little work from home setup here, and I thought I'd just share a little bit about my journey of starting my own counselling practice and what a day in the life used to kind of look like. So because I've always had more of a 9-to-5 set job, and then I would do my private practice on weekends or weeknights, there wasn't a set kind of day in the life that I would do just purely counselling work. But basically what a day would involve if I was meeting with clients is I would get my laptop, because I used an online client record management system. So I used a website called Better Clinics, and this was my client record management system. I did a little bit of research and this was the one that kind of came up as the most user-friendly for me. It is a monthly subscription that you pay, but it's where you can write all your notes and book in your appointments and even do invoicing straight from the one place. So having an online system that you can use for all of that, and kept it secure and private, because when I did first start my private practice, I used pen and paper notes, So I didn't feel like that was the best practice, and that's why I moved on to an online system. But there are other ones out there that you can have a look at. So basically I would get my computer ready, check my appointments, and then a lot of my appointments or clients I would go and see in the community or in their homes. So I would then go and meet with the client. While I'm with the client, I do write my notes on my laptop. I felt like it wasn't getting in the way of our appointment, and the client felt comfortable with that, and I was always open for them to let me know if they didn't. But it worked well in that everything was recorded during the session, and then those notes can be used when you need to prepare for your next session with them as well. Especially if you're seeing lots of clients, you're not going to remember every single detail about your clients, but when you have notes before your next appointment, you can prepare for that as well. So basically it would involve me going out to meet the client, having the counselling session, doing the notes and finalising them afterwards, and then I would send an invoice off. So I didn't actually use the website to send invoices. I created my own invoices and emailed them to the client after our appointment. And generally I would put a 2-week payment period, so they had up to 2 weeks to make that payment. A lot of my clients that I saw were funded by the NDIS, so generally I would forward the invoice to their plan manager, and the plan manager would be the ones who would then fund the invoice or pay the invoice from the client's NDIS funding. And that was working quite well. It meant the client didn't have to go through the invoice and understand all of it, and that was something that could just be funded straight from the plan manager. Obviously the client was aware of how much the sessions were and that the plan manager was funding it, because generally plan managers would email a notification to the client to let them know that they're paying an invoice as well. So yeah, the client knew exactly the process. The other thing, as a private practitioner, I would have a toolkit of resources, so things that I could use with clients, whether it was books about different information and I could recommend them to get that book, or these yoga pretzels were actually fun to do with kids as well. So just different activities based on whoever your client group is. I also did some sand play therapy work through one of my roles. So that would involve having the sand, and we would generally use kinetic sand because it had more of that sensory feel. And then you would get other little toys and little ornamental type things that they could use when creating their sand play work. And if you're interested in sand play, you can look more into that as well. There'll be some information on the internet, but that's one of the therapies I learned in my master's degree. And I did use it quite a bit with my younger clients as well. So that's kind of a general outline of my work as a private counsellor, as well as what a day might look like. If you're working in a private practice or in a kind of clinic format, you'd have clients coming in to see you, and I did also do that type of work. So generally they're 1-hour sessions. The client would come in, you'd have your session. Sometimes the session would involve doing some type of depression and anxiety kind of assessment, and then you would work with that, and that would be the starter of the session. And then other sessions would just be starting with whatever the client wants to bring to the session and talking through what is going on for them during that time. So each session looks completely different. Every client is different, what their needs are different, and as a counsellor you work with that. And again, it depends. If you're doing a specialised type of counselling role, then obviously you would work on that specifically. But if you're doing a general type counselling role, then it would be dependent on what the client wants to bring. And one important thing I want to leave this video with is counsellors don't give advice necessarily, but they're more there as a guide and someone to listen and someone to help the client actually come up with realizations or solutions or just understanding and self-reflecting for themselves, rather than someone going to a counsellor to get all the answers and to figure out how to deal with everything going on. That's not necessarily the counsellor's role. So I just want to leave you with that thought.